College will help you make your company look successful, but it's not going to help your company be successful. So this is a blue-collar business book that's about making money. Business has a scoreboard. It's your profit and loss statement. And if your profit and loss statement isn't winning, let's not pretend you're winning. You're not winning.
Welcome show, Donald Miller.
Jeremy, it's great to be with you.
Absolutely. I'm really appreciative of your time today. I've been a huge fan of your work over the years, so I'm really excited to get into simplifying people's lives in business. And the thing I really wanted to start with is, why would college be a big waste of money? It's one of the things that, one of the reasons you wrote your book. And I guess from that perspective, why would it be a waste of money?
Well, it is contextual. I have a baby girl coming, and if she ever sits down with me and says, "Dad, you didn't go to college, why should I?" I'm going to say, "Wait a second. We have to have a very long conversation." If you want to be a doctor, if you want to be a lawyer, if you want to be a nurse, there's a lot of reasons. And there's even reasons if you want to just go into business, there's all sorts of networking that takes place. And, the question is it worth going $150,000 into debt?
Mm-hmm.
If you want a business degree, if you want to be an entrepreneur, the answer to me is absolutely not. It's not worth $5,000. If you want to have a great time on your parents' dime and have some parties and attend some great football games, I think it's an awful expensive way to do that. But you could just live on a cruise ship and do that for cheaper. So, the reality is, though, the whole point that we're talking about here, Jeremy, is do they teach you actually how to make money in college?
Mm-hmm.
And I don't believe they do. I just don't. I actually didn't graduate from college. I really didn't think I was very smart, but somebody gave me a job in the warehouse of a publishing company, and 4 years later, I was president of that publishing company.
Wow.
And knew I had a knack for growing a business. I went on to write best-selling books, started my own business. We've got close to a $20 million business with a 64% profit margin. We've got 0 investors, 0 private equity, 0 loans from any banks.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty successful. However, I always felt like I don't really know what I'm doing, right? I mean, I didn't go to college. It hangs over our head so big. And kudos to anybody who did. I mean, you had more discipline. I grew up in a really dysfunctional home. It was just hard to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But so I hired people. I hired somebody to help run my company while I went off and wrote a book. This is a Harvard grad, and my company decreased in revenue by 30% and decreased in profit by 20%.
Wow.
And so then I realized, wait a second, maybe these guys don't. I just didn't think he understood the basic street basics of running a business. When I understood he didn't, and a lot of other people don't, that's when I started to put together Business Made Simple. Because I thought, what if there are a lot of people like me out there who aren't going to be able to go to college, or maybe who went to college and still don't know how to make money?
Mm-hmm.
Boy, that's a ripoff. They charge $150,000. You should get a return on your investment, right? I mean, that degree should be worth a lot. I wanted 60 daily entries with 60 videos that help you learn how the actual blue collar fundamentals of business. Now, here's one thing college does. College will make you sound really smart.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it makes you smart as it relates to business. College will help you make your company look successful, but it's not going to help your company be successful. So this is a blue collar business book that's about making money. Business has a scoreboard. It's your profit and loss statement. And if your profit and loss statement isn't winning, let's not pretend you're winning. You're not winning. So this is a book that just helps you better your profit and loss statement.
I can appreciate that as well. So I guess first of all, congratulations on expecting a child soon. we just had our second.
Yeah.
We just had our second last week, so I'm like kind of getting used to this whole having 2 kids thing. So congratulations.
Jeremy, you haven't slept. How long has it been since you've slept?
We've been getting about 3 hours a night, and it's more because the 2.5-year-old is like, "Mommy, I want to see my sister. I want to see my sister." So,
oh man. It's tugging out your heart while it's driving you crazy at the same time.
Exactly. But from that perspective too, you mentioned not having college. I'm on the other side of it where I have way too much. Like I have a master's degree. I studied at Oxford, and I don't use any of those things. And I've just found
that's interesting to hear you say that. I would imagine that was a great experience. I would imagine there's other stuff that's not monetary.
The thing I'll say from that is I learned some of the best research skills you can ever learn. Like I can figure out any problem or solution because of those, but other than having them to mention, it's not something I use. And I like that you mentioned, the way that you've educated yourselves, because I do find that, being in something and doing it to me is the best education. I think one of the biggest things we're missing is the idea of apprenticeships. Like we had 100 years ago where you'd go into some place, you'd work for a period of time, you figured out if you liked it or if you didn't. And it would kind of work for you in that way.
Yeah, I mean, mentorships have just turned into giant franchises now, and you get the junk food equivalent, assembly line equivalent of an education. If I had a 18-year-old right now or a 17-year-old saying, I think I just want to go into business like you, there are people I would call. Jeremy, you might be one of them, and just say, hey, he's a good kid. I'll give you $500 if he can spend a week with you. And he'll take out the garbage. He'll do what he can. See who says yes to that, because I just think that education would be pretty amazing. And then coming back to dear old dad and sitting down and saying, all right, what'd you learn and how could you apply it and how is that going to help you achieve your goals and those kinds of things. I think that's a much better education. And you're right, we've lost it. But that's up to us. At my company, I created this book, not just for anybody else, but for my own team members. Mm-hmm. And so, we have companies who are giving away hundreds of copies of this book, and over 60 days, they're watching the business acumen of their entire team grow. And that's, of course, going to make them a lot more money.
So why 60 days? Why is that the time period that you wanted to lay it out over?
Because I wanted to do 90, and I realized nobody would do an extra 30. So I had to get it down into 60. There are basically 10 skill sets that I think would make you a holistic business, very valuable professional. Mm-hmm. And each of those gets about 5 days. And then there's 10 days that are devoted to character and the kind of character that you need to have in order to be successful. So when I put all that together, it was 60. But it starts with the character of a competent professional. By the way, the very first one is see yourself as a value, as an economic product on the open market and provide value. So see yourself as a stock. When somebody puts money into your paycheck, get them a big freaking return on that paycheck.
Yeah.
And just obsess about it. If you obsess about giving people a great return on the money they pay you, you will never have insecurity in your job. You just won't. People will find you. They will pay you. Most of us are sitting there thinking, how much money can I get? I'm thinking, how much return can I give? Mm-hmm. If people pay me, Jeremy, a lot of money to spend a day. For 8 hours, it's a lot of money. And I get on the phone with them. I talk to them. And I said, look, it's a lot of money. The only way I'm going to do this if I can get you a 10x return on your investment. So you're going to pay me $50,000. You're going to pay me $50,000. If I don't get you $500,000 as a return, then I'll give you your $50,000 back. I don't want it. I don't want to lose sleep over the fact that I ripped somebody off. And I've done that I don't know how many times. And, they have to be able to make that kind of money. They have to have a product or something wrong with their messaging, something wrong with their marketing that we can fix. Otherwise, I won't do it because I've got a perfect record. And they pay it and they get a lot of money in return. But the only reason I can charge that much is because I'm getting them a lot more. Mm-hmm. And most people, they want to split the difference, or don't split the difference. Give people a massive, just, obnoxious return on their investment.
Well, I think that's a really, really good point, and I appreciate that you start there, because that is kind of the mindset that you need in a lot of things. I think a lot of people are stuck on, like, there's this thing called fair exchange in the world, right? Like, you do something, I pay you for that, or whatever it may be. Right. But one thing that I've drilled into my staff's head is you go further for the client. You do more for the client. We always do more than what's delivered, because that is how you create a reputation. That is how you build something that is going to refer back to you. And I think it's a great mindset to start out with, moving into business.
And Jeremy, don't you think it's a great way to sleep well at night?
Oh, absolutely. Except if you have a new baby. That's about it.
Well, at least it's the baby keeping you up and not your conscience, right?
Correct.
I can't sleep at night if I didn't give somebody a great return. I really can't do it. It bothers me.
So from that perspective, one of the biggest things that you want the reader to acquire from this book is confidence. And I guess from your perspective, why is confidence the most important thing to walk away with?
Well, confidence comes after two things. Confidence comes after winning, after success, and success comes after competence. So competence leads to confidence. And what this book aims to do is give you competence, and that will lead to confidence over time. But, let me give you an example.
Sure.
The president of my company, his name is Doug. His son got Business Made Simple, the book. He's in his junior year in college. He applied for a job that required a college degree, and he didn't have one yet, which I don't think very many jobs should require a college degree. That's sort of frustrating.
Well, not anymore. That's, it's become like the high school degree.
Yeah. Anyway, so he goes in and he interviews for this job, and they ask him some questions, and they said, look, we really like you, like your personality, like that. Come back in a year. Come back when you've got your degree. And he said, okay, I'll come back in a year. He said, hey, can I just answer one question you didn't ask? And the guy said, sure. I've never been asked that before. He said, I want to tell you what I would do in the first 90 days of working here. And I want to convince you that in 90 days, I would get all of the money that you'll pay me for the year returned. And he said, I've never heard that. What would you do? And he said, first, I'd clarify your mission statement, because the mission statement of this organization is really forgettable. So I think most people have probably forgotten the mission statement. And if they've forgotten the mission statement, they've forgotten the mission. Then I would clarify your marketing message, because I think you're confusing customers. Once we clarified your message and implemented that messaging in your marketing sales funnels, if you've got one, I would analyze that sales funnel, make sure it's getting the biggest possible return on your investment. The other thing I would do is just in whatever you want me to, I would go through contracts and see if they've been negotiated well. I just want to double check those things, make sure they're happening. I also want to make sure that the clear message is delivered to the sales team, so the sales scripts are in order and we're firing on all cylinders there. If you ever let me, I'd love to be in on an overhead audit, because there are about 6 or 7 places where overhead gets out of hand and most companies don't realize it's happening. Yeah, he went on and on. Everything I just said is in the book. And so what they did was the guy said, hold on, stop talking. He went and got his boss, and he pulled his boss into the room and said, okay, go way back. Why aren't people aligned around our mission statement? And he just had about a 2-hour conversation, and they hired him.
Wow.
They hired him at
was
full
he
price.
Was he applying for an entry-level position, by the way, with all this knowledge?
It was an entry-level position.
Wow.
But at the same time, it was like, they're sitting there going, this guy's going to make us a ton of money. And none of that he got in college. Not a bit of it. Not a single word of it. It all came from this simple $13 book. And that's the goal, right?
Yeah.
The goal is to tear down the paywall a little bit between the rich and the poor, which is the university system, because I don't think it's necessary. If you want to make a lot of money, it's not necessary.
Yeah, and then there's some things you need it for. Like I don't want my doctor operating on me without it, or my lawyer defending me without it. But in some cases, it's just not necessary, and experience can be your best teacher.
I think business, we're specifically talking about business school.
Yeah.
And business schools are figuring out. My marketing framework and my messaging framework are taught at Vanderbilt University, and there's other schools that are teaching it. So if you want a degree in my stuff, you can get it. But at the same time, they know that I sit there and say, I don't know if it's worth it. You can get it a lot cheaper. But a lot of people, they need a transition out of high school, and that's a good thing. I think if you're in your 20s and 30s and you're thinking about getting an MBA, I'd look for alternative routes.
Mm-hmm. Well, from that perspective, then you talk about a few really interesting topics in the book, and I know we covered a little bit of that, but I want to look at the idea of standing out, right, and getting people to pay attention to us. So I guess why aren't customers paying more attention, and how can we apply that in our business and our life?
The only reason customers aren't paying attention to you, if they're not paying attention to you, is because you have not defined the problem you solve. That's it. The only reason people give us money is to solve a problem. The only people come to our website. The only reason people come to our website is to solve a problem. The only reason people return our sales calls is to solve a problem. Jeremy, the only reason people listen to your podcast is to solve a problem. They're bored, or they want to be inspired, or they want to make more money, or they want to be a better leader. There's a ton of problems that your podcast solves. But nobody's going on there if they don't have a problem, because the negative, the feeling of lack is what motivates human behavior. If I'm hungry, I get in my car, I go to Whole Foods, I get something to eat, come back, and I eat or cook it or whatever. It's a negativity that drives the purchase of a solution. So that would be the number one thing. So let me give you an example, Jeremy.
Sure.
Let's say you're at a party, and there's two people in the room who do the exact same thing. They do the exact same thing, and they charge the exact same amount. You go up to one of them, and you're having a conversation. You say, "What do you do? Tell me what you do." And they say, "Well, I'm an at-home chef." You would probably say, "Oh, that's interesting. What are your favorite meals to cook? What are your favorite restaurants in town? Where did you get your culinary skills? Where'd you go to school?" On and on and on. You have a conversation. The next person that you go up to, they do the exact same thing, exact same quality, charge the exact same amount. You say, "What do you do?" They say, "Well, you know how most families don't eat together anymore? And when they do, they don't eat healthy? I'm an at-home chef. I come to your house and cook so your family eats healthy and can actually have a deep, meaningful conversation around the dinner table. And I'm available if you ever want to talk." Which one of those chefs is going to get more business? Chef 1 or Chef 2?
Chef 2, because the other guy's just like, "Hey, I sell widgets, want a widget." You know what I mean? Like, that's about it.
Well, the other guy said, "I sell solutions," but he didn't say what the solutions are for.
Right.
And the first guy led with the problem. You know how most families don't eat together anymore, and when they do, they don't eat healthy. Well, now you've baited me for the medicine to my problem. I may not have even known that was a problem. But as soon as you say it, I go, "Oh my gosh, that's us." I mean, we haven't sat down as a family in 5 years. And now I'm going, "Buddy, what do you got for me?" And he says, "I'm an at-home chef." "Oh, you got something." And then he explains So how do we differentiate ourselves in the market? We become known. Stop trying to become known for your solution. Become known for the problem that you solve, and then your solution will be worth more.
Well, I think so many people struggle to wrap their head around that, right? Like they
Yeah.
And that's the idea of when you don't differentiate, like you're saying, you blend in. Nobody's going to remember you, and you're not going to last. But I think a lot of people really struggle with that, and I'm curious, like, when somebody's struggling with that, how would you make them look at that to get to what the actual solution is?
You mean how would I help them realize what problem they solve?
Like when they look at what problem they solve, how would they figure that out? Because a lot of people can't see it.
Yeah, especially if you're really close to it, right?
Yes.
It's really, really hard to see. I think you need to talk to your customers. And you need to specifically try to figure out, what problem did we solve for this person? That's what we're looking to better understand. And they're going to tell you, "I was confused about this," or I couldn't sleep at night," or whatever. And you make a list of those. You could even send out a survey. Once you make a list, let's say you got 10 of them, send out a survey saying which was the main problem that you struggled with. When you get 80% of your customers saying it's this problem, you have struck oil. You really have. You've found gold, because you start talking about that problem, you're going to get a lot more people signing up for your services. But, if you can't figure it out yourself, ask your customers, because if you're making money, you're solving a problem.
Correct.
And really, we all know what problem we solve. We just don't know how to word it. And so really what you're looking for is wording. Like Jeremy, intuitively, you solve a lot of problems on your podcast, but I bet you if you surveyed your listeners, you would be like, "Oh, that's it. I wouldn't have put it that way." Right. And they'll give you the marketing language easy.
Absolutely. Well, you mentioned earlier your president's son and how he basically walked in this office and got a job. And, I guess one of the big points of that is negotiation. And that was something he was able to get from your book.
Yeah.
And I guess when we're looking at how getting what we want from a negotiation, like, how do we approach that so we actually get what we want?
Yeah, well, the negotiation part of my book is the only part that's somebody else's material. It's a guy named John Lowry. He teaches negotiation at Pepperdine Law, and I took his negotiation course 3 times.
Wow.
So there you go. I went to college. See, college has value.
There we go, right?
And yeah, full circle. And I think I paid $680 or something for the course. And I was determined to use tactics or strategies to get my $680 back. So I immediately got $400 off of a riding lawnmower. And then the next move, I wanted this piece of property that was really, really expensive, and I couldn't afford it. And so I used his negotiation tactic to get that property at 66% of the asking price. So 33% discount. And now I'm sitting in the basement, the garage basement office. We call it the bunker, having an interview with you in that very property.
Wow.
It was $800,000 in savings. And so I was hooked immediately. I started taking the course over and over. And since then, he's made and saved me tens of millions of dollars. So I'll give you just a couple things.
Sure.
One is, a lot of people would say, don't make the opening offer. Like Chris Voss, and in his masterclass on negotiation says, don't make the opening offer. There's a benefit to that in the sense that you realize what the other person wants, and then you can respond based on you getting the first information.
Right, like you don't give up too much up front. It's kind of like you're getting some intel.
The second the problem is, though, you're giving up the gravity of the negotiation. So I've always made the first offer if I can. Sometimes it's not possible. Like if you're buying a car, the first offer is on the sticker. But which, by the way, look at that. I mean, they're not asking you how much do you want to pay for this car. You think car dealerships have figured it out, if anybody's figured it out, and they make the opening offer. And what they do is they set the gravity of the offer high. And so if you're buying, you want to set the gravity low. If you're selling, you want to set the gravity high. But that opening offer will frame the rest of the negotiation. So, I go look at a piece of property when I'm done with this call, and I think they want $3 million for it. If I want that property, I'll probably offer something like 2.6. And then hopefully we'll settle in somewhere at 2.8 or 2. I mean, we all know how to do that. If I went in and said, I don't know enough about property. If they didn't have I'd say, I guess, it's downtown. Is it $5 million? They go, yeah, actually $5 million. We could probably do that. They just made $2 million off me because I'm a sucker. So yeah, I would say make the opening offer. The other thing is that John taught me, and it's in the book, Business Made Simple. There's almost always something else besides money in play. And I bought a piece of property once, and the gentleman I bought it from, it was just behind my house. There was a field behind my house, and it belonged to a gentleman who lived next door. And his wife had Alzheimer's. They were old. They were preparing to enter into care and all that kind of stuff. He needed the money to pay for her medical coverage. And I knew developers would buy that land in a heartbeat, and they pay a lot of money for it. So I went to him and I said, look, I'll pay what a developer will pay. I know they're going to pay outrageous prices, but somewhere in there, what a developer would pay, you're going to make money off your land. What I'll do, though, is I won't build on it. I'll let that sit, and you can care for your wife. And Mr. Smith, I give you my word, I'm not building on that land until you're out of that house, until you're gone, because it's just an investment for me. I don't need it. I'm not going to do anything with it. And he shook my hand. We never even did a deal. And he had 5 developers come to him and offer him a lot more money. I found this out after I bought it. And he said, I'm going to sell it to Don because he's not going to build on it. And I want my wife to look out the window and see the same view that she's seen for the last 50 years. And I honored that commitment. They both went into care, and they both passed away before I built on that land, because I didn't want him even driving by his old house and seeing something being built back there. I didn't want him to think that was going to happen in his lifetime or be sad. That was more meaningful to him than money. And I got a decent deal on the lot. So, there's almost always something else. One time I wanted a really well-known speaker to come speak at my conference. I used to do this conference, and, the guy's very expensive, and I couldn't afford to pay him. So we got on the phone. I said, look, I've written a bunch of best-selling books. I'd imagine you're trying to write a book. If you want to spend a day together going through how I think you should structure that book, I'd love to do that. And if you'll speak at my conference. And he said, yeah, I'll come speak at your conference. It sounds like a good deal. Yeah, I got a very, very big name, well-known speaker for free because he knew he would get great value off of sitting down with me and talking about a book. So, that's the other thing. But there's 3 more in the book, little things you need to understand in negotiation. If everybody on your team can do that, my gosh, you're going to start getting really great deals.
Absolutely. Well, once again, the book is Business Made Simple. We'll get around to where people can get it in just a few minutes, but I have a few more questions for you since I want to make sure I respect your time here, Don. But we had a listener question that was submitted by Jay Emma, and he wants to know, what is the biggest mistake people make when talking about their company or their vision?
Yeah, we've already said it, and it's they don't lead with the problem.
Mm-hmm.
You start talking about your solution. The biggest mistake is that you did not lead with the problem. The very first thing out of your mouth is, you know how people struggle with this. And then you position your product as the solution.
Mm-hmm.
You never sell medicine as just medicine. You sell it as headache medicine, right? Toothache medicine. Because the medicine doesn't make any sense until you tell me what problem it solves. What's the pain point? Everybody listening to this, nobody does this. Nobody's telling anybody to do this because they don't understand narrative structure and they don't understand communication. That's worth millions of dollars, Jeremy. I mean, literally, everybody listening, just start trying it. Just start, identify your problem and start talking about it. And the more you talk about the problem, the more people want to buy the solution.
Absolutely. Well, Don, I have two questions that I ask every guest that I want to ask before I let you go. And the first being, if you were to take a look at yourself at 21 versus now, what is something you believed at 21 or held as true at 21 that you do not believe now?
Oh gosh. I think I would have to go back because I really did want to succeed at 21 and I was very ambitious. But I had so many insecurities, Jeremy. I just didn't think I belonged and success wasn't for me. Money certainly wasn't for me because we didn't grow up with any. I had a chip on my shoulder and I was trying to prove something. And so I think I would go back and just encourage myself and say, hey man, success is for anybody who wants it. Anybody who wants it. And really what I would want to say is it's going to be a good ride. Because, I don't know if I would have believed myself at the time, but I would have figured it out over time. That's a fantastic question.
Oh, thank you. It's one of my favorite to ask because people that are doing big things, you have these big perspective change in their life. And I think that's where the amazing learning points are in somebody's life, right? There's all the different things they've done, but it's that perspective shift. That's the change. It really is.
It is. It's that shift. Yeah.
In terms of like legacy and what you're leaving behind, if you're far in the future and you could tell us what that legacy is going to look like, what does that look like?
Well, I think about that a lot, Jeremy, because, the baby's coming. She's coming in June. And I've never thought so much about my legacy or really even cared. I always thought if I was ever, elected president, I'd be the only one who didn't have a library because who cares if you're remembered or not. Suddenly, with a daughter coming, you're realizing your name means something, right?
Yes.
Oh my gosh, there's somebody who I love more than anybody in the world. And sadly and happily, both, they're part of me. They have to take me with them. I'm going to affect their livelihood. And so, to me, I think what I want my daughter to know is that her dad cared about more than just himself. He cared about the family. He cared about my clients and the mission that we're on to bring a really good business education to everybody who wants it. That hopefully he was not perfect, but was thinking a lot about other people. And I just don't want my daughter to just wake up one day and realize that her dad is just an old fat white man who only cared about himself. And I by that I mean like a fat cat. I worry that she won't see me doing altruistic things. And so that's the thing I would add to my legacy.
It's interesting because I feel like, I've been a father for 2.5 years now, but it's made me really aware of not just what I say, but also how you treat others, right? Because you're giving your kids a blueprint for how they're going to get through life. And those first impressionable years, like those are things that stick with you. So you really have to be aware of what you're doing and how you're setting them up.
Yeah, no kidding. Yeah, it's huge.
So once again, the book is Business Made Simple. Our guest today has been the author, Donald Miller. Don, where can we find out more about you and where can we find out more about the book?
Well, you get the book on Amazon. It's just called Business Made Simple. And then I do something really fun. Every Wednesday, I review somebody's website. I literally put your website up on a big screen and I shoot a video for YouTube where I just take it apart and tell you everything I think you need to do differently. And then we actually, in my and my team creates a new website for you.
Wow.
And we show you what we think your website should look like. And that's called Website Wednesday. And if you want to submit your website, just go to businessmadesimple.com/website, businessmadesimple.com/website, or go to Donald Miller on YouTube and watch those videos.
Very cool. Donald Miller, thank you so much for hanging out with me today.
Jeremy, thanks for having me.